Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters. I'm your host Mitch, glad to have you here. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about Commander on a budget. Today's episode's on a Commander topic, but thanks to a fan suggestion, we have a much better name for this series. It's now going to be called Commander's 2 Cents. So in episodes like these, I'll be giving you my own personal take on topics about the format in general and current news. This show and episodes like this one are possible because of viewers like you. So if you're looking for some easy ways to help support the show, make sure you like this episode and share it with friends. And make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Thank you to everyone who's already purchased our merchandise, it really does help support the channel. Another easy way to support this channel is by using our TCGPLAYER affiliate links. So make sure that you're looking for those links in the description whenever you're buying a deck or just individual cards. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. So the Commander's Quarters is coming up on its 1-year anniversary at the end of July. It's been an absolutely incredible and crazy year, and a lot of things have changed since that first deck tech on Nezahal. We've had a lot of new and exciting budget cards for Commander and some very exciting reprints. On top of that, a lot of great commanders came out that were a lot of fun to build budget decks around. But over the past year, we've also seen the rise in cost of a lot of formerly budget cards. I recently started to cover just how drastic these price increases are in my Request for Quarters series. There are only 2 episodes so far, but there are plenty more on the way as price increases for some great budget cards have pushed them out of budget consideration for this channel. Now, I didn't major in economics, and I'm definitely no expert in MTG finance, so I couldn't tell you exactly what kind of impact that this channel has had on the prices of certain budget cards. What I can tell you is that over the past year, I've definitely noticed some trends, and there are plenty of other people out there that are noticing these changes too. Back in May, Wayfarer's Bauble was included in an article by MTG Stocks as a weekly winner. The Commander's Quarters was mentioned in that article, so I figure at least some impact on the market must be occurring. The more that this channel grows and the more that people buy and build budget decks, the more demand that there will be for certain cards. I never imagined that this channel would ever get to anywhere near this point, and for that I have to thank you all. I truly wouldn't be here today without you. That being said, I also never imagined that this channel would have any kind of impact on the market. I don't want to be contributing to driving up the cost of budget cards so high that budget players can no longer afford them. But I also want to make content that helps players play Commander on a budget. So a while back, I was averaging about 2 deck techs a week. In the past few months, many people have noticed and pointed out that the number of deck techs has decreased to only about 1 a week. While that was happening though, you may have also noticed that the total number of episodes overall has increased to 3 or more in a week. The other episodes are a part of newer series like Quest for Quarters, Request for Quarters, Commander Quick Takes, and Commander 2 Cents. This change was very intentional. I heard a quote a long time ago that if you don't adapt and evolve, you die. Now, die might be an overly dramatic word, but the meaning behind it really resonates with me. As a budget player and content creator, I need to continue to learn and adjust to make the best channel that I can for you. For this to happen, I need to not only work to make this channel successful in the future, but also work to make sure that Commander can stay budget for everyone who wants to play it that way. Thanks to the support from this amazing community, and especially the support of my patrons, I've been able to quit my day job and do what I love full time. I've been able to invest a lot more into the show and have some very exciting things around the corner. But like many people, I do have a family that I need to work to provide for. So with this change over to full time, there's that added pressure that I need to make sure that this can work long term. I could have continued consistently doing 2 deck techs a week, and that might have been great for the short term, but I honestly don't believe that it's a good long-term solution. From what I've noticed so far, too many budget deck techs tend to lead to the prices spiking for certain budget cards. Now, prices are going to change over time with or without the Commander's Quarters. There are a ton of factors on why a card spikes in price, and my channel is a very small part of it. But I want to make sure that I'm being conscious of the potential impact that I do have though. I'm absolutely blown away by the amount of support that this channel has gotten over the past year. But the more that this channel grows, the more potential impact that it has. And that impact can be positive, but it can also be negative. I want to make sure that I'm limiting the negative impact as much as I can. Now, one of the things that I love about building on a budget is that restriction truly does breed creativity. There are certain cards out there in Commander like Cyclonic Rift, Demonic Tutor, or a dual land like Underground Sea that if budget weren't a consideration, you would pretty much have to run in every deck that you can. In most situations, it would just be the wrong choice not to. They are incredibly powerful and just great in basically any deck that has the option to run them. I truly enjoy the challenge of building on a budget where I'm not able to include cards like these in my decks. This forces me to get creative when building a deck to make it work without these kinds of staples. That being said, there are 2 things that pretty much every deck needs to have, and those are ramp and card draw. Now, there are definitely some exceptions that the Commander can account for one or both of them, but for the most part, every single deck needs those 2 things to function properly. A year ago when I started the channel, there were plenty of options for both budget, ramp, and card draw, but a lot can definitely change in a year. If you take a quick look at the Nezahal deck, you can see what the price of certain cards used to be that today are well out of budget. Now, as a budget player, I'm used to adapting and making adjustments to make it all work within the budget. Would reprints help? Of course they would. The prices of in-demand cards are bound to go up over time until a card is reprinted. Regrowth, for example, was out of budget for my Kamal deck, but now that is well within budget with its reprint in Modern Horizons. And although I would love for every single one of my Request for Quarters cards to be reprinted in the near future, I know that that's not realistic. So although reprints are nice, I'm not depending on them when it comes to building within a budget. But you can even just see the overall increase in cost of budget cards over time by looking at the total cost of certain decks today. The cost of my Joda deck when it came out was $24.48, but that same deck today is $65.98 even without including shipping. So I can definitely understand that this can lead to confusion and frustration when someone hears me say the cost of that deck in that episode and then goes to buy the deck. They're especially going to be frustrated if they didn't check to see when that episode was published. Now, I can't control prices over time, but this kind of frustration is completely understandable. I'm starting to realize though that this can even happen with more current decks as well. When it comes to a deck's price, there are a ton of different factors that come into play when the episode has been out for a while. But I'm now finding that there are even factors at play between the time I finish recording and the time the episode comes out that could influence the overall price. One of the biggest of these factors might be other content creators. For example, my latest deck tech was on Yark the Desecrated. Now, Yark was featured on game nights on July 10th. The deck performed very well and showed off just how powerful Yark could be. At the time of recording, the price of my Yark deck was under my $25 budget. But after the Game Nights episode came out, I guarantee you a lot of the cards in that episode increased in price. A lot of the heavily played and damaged cards that I include in my price were probably already snatched up. Patrons of my channel also get access to my list early too, so if they like the look of a deck ahead of time, they are welcome to buy it right then and there. On top of all that, this Yark episode was a Commander cost excluded episode, and some people might miss that. At its $8 price, I simply couldn't build around the Commander without doing so. I want to be as transparent as I possibly can with everyone so that everyone knows what they can expect. I want to be able to set expectations and control as many factors as I can. And this leads me to one last factor that has been affecting the overall price as of late, which is shipping. When this channel started, the way that shipping was handled on TCGPLAYER is different than the way it's handled now with some recent changes. So initially the cost of shipping these decks did not or barely affected the price at all. But now shipping can make up a much larger percentage of the overall cost of the deck. I can't fault TCGPLAYER or any company making changes that are right for their business. They are making decisions that are best for their customers and their sellers. Again, I said this before and it's something that I truly believe in. If you don't adapt and evolve, you die. But with these and all the other factors that I mentioned earlier, I realized that I need to make a change in order to meet the expectations of the community. As best as I can, I want to make it so that when you watch an episode, you can better understand where I got my price. I also want to make you aware of what factors could be influencing that price when you go to buy the deck. The more factors I can control though, the better that this will be. So I think that this all starts with the price itself. As I mentioned before, shipping wasn't a factor when it started, but it very much can be now. Let's take a look at the Yark deck that I mentioned earlier. At the time of recording, the price of the deck was $24.98 and what I deemed to be a reasonable shipping cost of $3.29. At the time of this recording, I put that deck back through the optimizer and the best price I can find is this. While still excluding the cost of the Commander, the deck now costs $26.55. And if you look at just that, you may think, wow, that cost hardly increased at all. But then you see that the shipping cost for the deck is $19.14. So the prices of the decks may be comparable, but the cost of shipping is making a big difference. The price increases for a deck can either go on the cards themselves or in the shipping. If a certain card is being bought out by a lot of people, you may still be able to find a cheap option, but that seller might not have other cards that you're looking for. You can still buy that cheap card from that seller, but you will have to pay for shipping. Shipping has become a very variable factor as of late, and I want to make sure my prices are as transparent as possible. Since the change, I've been working hard to ensure that the shipping price was reasonable with the cost of the deck still being under $25. With the price of shipping being much more variable these days, I could also build a deck that might be $28 in total, but the deck might be $20 and the shipping might be $8. So what happens then? If the only requirement were to get the deck cost as close to $25 as possible, then with shipping, the total cost of the deck would be well above $40. That just seems very dishonest to me and really wouldn't meet people's expectations. Now this next part might seem a little bit off topic, but I promise it's relevant. About a month ago, I put out a poll where I asked this question. What budget do you use when building your Commander decks? At this point, there are over 16,000 responses, so thank you to those of you who submitted a response. This helped me get a much better idea of what budgets you personally might be working with. So here's where I need your help and where you get to help shape the future of this channel. My goal with all this is to build budget decks that you will enjoy. To do this, I need to be as transparent as I possibly can be so that everyone knows what to expect when it comes to how I got my price. Rules need to be established so that everyone's on the same page. So I'm proposing that I increase the budget of my decks to $50. This would be an overall budget that includes shipping as part of the cost. Again, at this point, shipping can be very variable. This makes it very difficult to get a price to around $25 with shipping being at a reasonable amount. When building a deck with a $50 budget, I'm able to accommodate for that shipping variability so that expectations are met. On top of including shipping, I'd be able to include a lot more commanders in the cost. Like I mentioned before, Yark had to be excluded with the $25 budget since its cost was $8.08. The current cutoff I set for myself for an excluded commander cost is $2.50. At only $25, essentially if a commander costs more than 10% of your budget, it was excluded. But only 48% of commanders have a cost that's $2.50 or less. This means that over half of my deck techs are bound to be commander costs excluded. But with this increase in budget, I could also increase the exclusion cutoff. With a $50 budget, say that I included the commander's cost in there if it was $10 or less. 78% of commanders out there fit within that requirement. That means that less than a quarter of my episodes would have to be a commander excluded episode. And the less excluded episodes that I do, the easier it is for people to understand the price. So my first reason to increase the budget is to simplify the price. The total cost of a deck is going to be much easier to understand when it can include shipping in the majority of commanders. But the reason that I chose $50 is twofold. The second reason comes from the poll that I conducted. The vast majority of you are already building decks with a $50 and up budget. With this change, I'm accounting for both of these factors, and I think that $50 can still be seen as a reasonable price when the overall cost is taken into account. I'm not going into making this decision lightly. It's been something that's on my mind and that I've been considering for quite some time. Believe it or not, I've lost sleep over this. I understand that some people are going to be averse to this kind of change, and that's completely understandable. But I truly believe that when it is needed, you have to adapt and evolve or you die. I want to be as transparent with this community as I possibly can be. That not only goes for the price of my decks, but also for this entire discussion on the future of this channel. I've always believed that being upfront and honest about something is the best way to go about it. I truly believe that moving to an overall budget of $50 is a step in the right direction. Instead of debating about what a reasonable shipping cost might be, just looking at the total is a much more simple way of seeing the true cost of a deck. Thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate any and all feedback that you have for me on this. In the description, you'll find a survey where you get to help decide the future of this channel. Do you want to make the change to make the overall cost of the deck $50 or less, including shipping? This would also greatly increase the number of commanders that don't have to be excluded from the cost. Or do you want to keep it at $25 or less, excluding the shipping cost? And this also means that over half of my deck techs are going to have to be commander excluded. I would very much appreciate if you could fill out this survey and vote as soon as you can. This change very well may impact the deck tech that I do for this week. I look forward to hearing all of your comments and seeing the results. I really do want this channel to be one that is truly made for the community. I think I've done a decent job at this so far, but there is always room for improvement. Transparency is key to all this. Thank you in advance for helping to determine the direction of this channel for the future. I really couldn't do this without all of you, so thank you again. And make sure that you're following us on social media for more updates and sneak peeks on future episodes. Links to our social media accounts can be found in the description. Also in the description below is a link to the Commander's Quarters Patreon page, and I just want to say a quick thank you to the patrons who have subscribed so far. There are many benefits to being a patron for the Commander's Quarters, including being able to vote on future commanders for deck techs. There's even a general level tier where you get your own personalized deck tech dedicated to you. I truly couldn't do this without all of your support, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you. If you haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. And while you're at it, check out some of our other episodes on budget deck techs, Quest for Quarters episodes, commander topics, and creators' quarters. And with that, I'm out of here. Thanks again, and have a good one.